All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this morning where we'll be discussing how to leverage ESB and BPM in a complex architecture. I'm going to go ahead and get our presentation started and make sure we have time at the end for questions and answers. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. I know there's a little bit of a lag time, but I'll go ahead and go through the agenda. So here is the agenda for today's webinar. First, I'll give you a quick overview of Evoke Technologies, the presenters of this webinar, and then a quick overview of Bonita BPM, which is what we'll be using today in our use case. We will talk about the BPM-only approach and then advantages of ESB. Our team is then going to be covering all the technical areas of the use case, along with a demo of this particular use case to bring everything together. At the end of the presentation today, we'll leave some time for questions and answers. Please feel free to drop any questions directly to me, Jason Kachera, in the chat bar, and I'll be sure to get to them in the questions and answer section. Also, you should all have a handout section in the right side of your control panel. In the handouts, we have given everybody a couple downloads. Please feel free to download those. If you have any trouble accessing them, please let me know. So a little overview and highlights of Evoke Technologies and our experience with BPM. So Evoke Technologies is a software services firm located in Dayton, Ohio, with an offshore development center in Hyderabad, India. Evoke Technologies has been a premier partner of BonitaSoft since 2015 and has been providing BPM consulting for over 5 years. Evoke has more than 400 people dedicated to project delivery, which includes architects, process analysts, developers, testers, and a support team that's dedicated just for Bonita BPM. During this webinar, we will be looking at Bonita BPM for our particular use case. So what is Bonita BPM? Bonita BPM is an end-to-end BPM-based platform for building powerful, easy-to-change applications to support just about every facet of your business. At BonitaSoft, they've named them living applications because they can adapt and grow quickly to support your business requirements. What's the difference between Bonita BPM and traditional BPMs? So compared to other BPM technologies, BonitaSoft took a different approach. Most BPM technologies prevent your developers from having the freedom and flexibility they need to build highly personalized applications. Traditional BPM technologies focus on the business user, being business user-centric, and therefore take a no-code approach and focus on that as a prime feature. They're typically closed source, and there's limited possibility for your developers to write code or extend the applications. At BonitaSoft, they don't believe in zero code. Evoke and BonitaSoft both believe a BPM implementation can be successful without empowering developers with the right tooling, plus the ability to extend that tooling and write code whenever and wherever they need it, which creates a developer-friendly environment. So Bonita BPM is open source. Tooling, extensibility, and freedom is part of who they are. And Bonita BPM includes powerful, as I mentioned earlier, easy tools for building highly personalized user interfaces. So you don't have to settle for the typical forms and design. So finally, Bonita BPM lets developers create applications that are built for change, which is why they call them living applications. So today, we're bringing to you a presentation on how to leverage ESB and BPM in a complex architecture. Today, our panelists are going to be Vara Rayapudi, who is the BPM Practice Director for Evoke Technologies, and Hariala, who's one of the Senior Solution Architects focused on Bonita BPM, who will also be supporting the demo and the use case today. So with that said, I will be handing it over to Vara Rayapudi. Vara, controls in your hands.
Thank you, Jason. Again, welcome to all the people who joined this morning to this webinar. Today we wanted to present a very simple use case that would actually drive the point that we are making, the integration of ESB with BPM, how beneficial it's going to be. So the use case is the claims management process. So a typical an expense claims or any travel expense claims or any typical process that you would find in any simple or a large organization. So we chose a very simple use case so that it's very lucid and easy to understand, and then we focus more on the technical aspects of the use case. So as you see on the screen, this is a simple flow diagram that we have presented there, which is a manual process which has been going on for several years as to how this process actually gets done in various organizations. Simply a claim letter would be raised in order to start the process, some kind of paperwork, and then there would be a customer service assistant who takes it up and then passes on to a processor. So when they actually do this, they look at the claim letter and understand whether all the required data is there or not, whether all the validations are done, and it's ready to be given to the next level in order to process it in the right way. And upon that, a processor, a person who takes it up and then looks at all the business rules that are needed in order to process it, and then he moves it on to the manager. Now, the manager actually has the authority to accept or reject the claim based on how the inputs and parameters are. So that is the crux of the process, as most of us know. And the follow-up that happens after that is probably an assistant of that manager takes it up and then stores the paperwork that is required in the necessary place, and also follows up the communication that needs to be sent to the end customer. So whether the process has completed with an approval or with a rejection, or asking if some more information has to be given, etc. So that is a typical process that, as we all know. So let us use this particular use case in order to understand how a ESB and a BPM integration is going to benefit. So if you move on from that manual process, the next step is to visualize an automated process that could enable all that process we talked about. Now a process claim, the claim could be raised from, for example, a scanner. Somebody could actually scan the letter that we're talking about and then push it into the system. Or somebody could log in into internet and upload it via web. Or even you could probably have other legacy systems that are taking care of such processes as an initiator of this particular process. And this would be followed by the process claim step, where as we talked in the previous slide, we would look at all the parameters that are required and start off the process step. And then the review step actually is where you look at the parameters, and then the follow-up to the sending the letter to the customer and storing the documents. So what you're seeing here is conceptualized diagram where each of these steps could be looked at as system components. So from there, if we move on, we could actually look at one simple way of implementing the whole process. So you could actually take up a BPM platform like Bonita Soft and implement the entire end-to-end process in the BPM platform itself. Now, so what you're seeing on the screen is a typical process flow diagram for something like that, where you would get a document submitted as the initiation of the process, and the data that is there in that particular document needs to be extracted, which is in the process itself now, and then it moves on to verifying the parameters, and then the rest of the steps follow as we have discussed. And towards the end, probably printing that particular letter, the approval or the rejection letter, and sending to the customer. Even those parts have been put up as part of this entire process when you look at it in a completely BPM only approach. So that is the point we're trying to make here today. The primary points you see with the BPM only approach is that you are seeing that the business logic and the technical architecture are getting intertwined. Now there are various steps that are, so for example, tomorrow if your business changes slightly, so you would have to redo the entire flow and come back and make changes to the single flow that you're talking about. And it's not modular, so it would be very easy to test and reuse in other places. And as I'm saying, maintenance and changes to system will be very difficult when certain parts change. When say your printers related information changes and there are other components you need to add. So essentially you will have to go back to the original process and make modifications and redo the whole thing. So which is not a very desirable thing. And if you move on, so the next step is to introduce ESB into this ecosystem. Now, the moment we say ESB, what comes to mind is the basic service-oriented architecture, and which inherently is a very decoupling of nature that it presents to us. And SOA would be very highly scalable and very good maintainable, and it would be very easy to improve the system parts later on. So ESB comes with that flavor already, and we are going to utilize into this particular ecosystem we are talking about. And you could also bring your legacy systems that are catering to certain parts of functionality and plug them in into this existing process flow and reuse the old code that you already have. So even that is a good advantage with using ESB in this context. Now, to just clarify a little bit, because we are using these terms heavily in this particular presentation, BPM is more of a human-based tasks-oriented platform that runs the human kind of transactions and enables that part of the flows. And it orchestrates various business processes. That's the primary goal of any BPM platform. Whereas an ESB is more of an integrator. It integrates various complex systems that you would have in your software ecosystem, and then you could route the data into right places and then do the transformations, merging, and sending to the right destinations. So that's more of a ESB focus that any SOA related platforms would have. That brings us to the crux of our discussion now, where we are presenting an optimal solution for this particular use case, a BPM and ESB combined approach. And the architecture that you're seeing there is what we want to explain to you today and provide you a demonstration of that as well. So a claim letter would be initiated, which would actually come to a Camel route. Apache Camel is the ESB we are using today. We will talk more about it in the coming slides. And a typical JMS messaging system is set up, a simple messaging platform we've used. And if you see, the first part of this entire flow is the top Camel route, where the claim letter is taken, the data is looked into, transformed to the necessary parameters, and sent to the Bonita producer. Now, BPM engine looks for the right JMS messages from the route, takes up, completes the flow. We would talk about exactly what would go into the Bonita flow in a moment. And after the processing that happens, then the destination parts of printing the documents, storing into a content management system, and any other downstream steps that need to be taken are again taken care by another route of Camel. So this is a typical architecture, a simplistic but yet again very powerful architecture that we want to present to you today. And we would discuss various aspects of this particular architecture in the coming slides. So now I would request Hari Allah, our senior architect, to continue with the presentation and also demonstrate us.
Thank you, Vara. Hello, everyone. Now let's see how this solution can be implemented and loose-coupled architecture can be achieved by using Apache Camel as a ESB engine and Bonita BPM as a workflow engine. And obviously, we have many other popular ESB tools available in the market, ranging from lightweight integration frameworks such as Spring integration to the highly scalable distributed tools like Talent, TIBCO, JBoss Fuse, etc. Choosing of the right ESB tool into the ecosystem is a different topic and requires a detailed analysis considering the enterprise needs and the B2B connectors that are needed, things like that. But for the purpose of simplicity and the demo, we have chosen Apache Camel as a ESB engine. Yeah. So Apache Camel, one more note about Apache Camel is it is part of Apache Service Mix, which is an enterprise-ready ESB platform, and also it is part of JBoss Fuse, which is a commercial variant of this Apache Service Mix. And Apache Camel obviously provides all varieties of transport protocol implementations and provides different B2B connectors, and also provides major commonly used enterprise integration patterns, popularly known as EIPs. Another unique feature about Apache Camel is it provides multiple domain-specific languages support, such as Java, Groovy, Scala. So all the endpoint configurations and data transformation logics can be written in either of these languages depending upon the ecosystem needs. So obviously when we talk about ESB, one of the key component would be exchanging the messages between the endpoints during the data transformation phases, and one of the scalable component that is commonly known as a JMS queue. So in the solution, we have used what is popularly known as ActiveMQ as a messaging queues. And from the Bonita perspective, it provides a custom JMS connector which is available in the community, and the URL is presented for the public downloadable, and from which this connector supports publishing and subscribing messages to the messaging queues, whereas Apache Camel provides out-of-the-box endpoint to consume and publish messages to the queues. Another important component that we have developed for the solution is, so once a message has been processed and transformed in the ESB layer, it has to pass over the message and convert into a Bonita case so that approvals can happen in the workflow. So currently Apache Camel does not have any Bonita integration component, but from the new release which is going to be released, will have out-of-the-box support to create a case and integrate with the Bonita APIs. So in this custom component, we have used the Bonita REST API to pass over the message and convert into a case onto Bonita engine. And Bonita provides a rich and robust REST API to access all its workflow objects outside the engine. And here we see a sample configurations that are used for this ESB endpoint configurations and data transformations. The couple of routes have been defined here. So the route that we see here is a file to JMS route. So basically it does, when a file has been dropped in this file source location, it will be picked up by this file endpoint, which is out of the box component, and will be converted as a message and pushed out to ActiveMQ Bonita queue. And once a message has been pushed into a JMS server, there is another route which gets activated, which pulls the message from the respective Bonita queue and executes certain data transformations on that message. The first data transformation that happens is a document extractor, which basically reads the document and using the regular expressions extract certain parts from the document. And then it will be sent over to logger component to log the message. And finally, the final destination would be Bonita endpoint, which will initiate a case onto Bonita engine for the approvals. Yeah, so once we extract the data transformations and endpoint integrations outside the workflow becomes more modular and focuses the functionality on approval process. So obviously the real-time workflow could be much more complex, but for the demo and simplicity purpose, we have taken the obvious steps that covers the claim request process. And here if you see, there are two lanes that are available in the workflow. The one is customer service representative lane and other one is the customer service manager lane. So once a ESB engine kicks off a case into workflow engine, so a task will be created to verify the compliance of that claim request to the customer service representative. Once verifies the compliance of the request, once it is accepted by the representative, another step will be created to the representative to continue with the processing of that claim. Once processing is done by the representative, it will be sent over to the manager of that representative for the final approval. And when customer service manager logs in and when they approve the final claim request, it will be sent over to again a messaging queue. This is where the outbound JMS message will be kicked off. Again, this sits into ESB layer. The multiple endpoints can be listening to this message and their further processing will happen on that approvals. Now let's have a quick demo running on the solution. So I'll give a couple of seconds so that everybody can see my screen. So hope everybody is seeing my screen. So I'll continue with the demonstration. So this is the source location where Apache Camel has been configured to pick up the file whenever it sees a file in the source location. So I'm going to drop a new claim request document which will be picked up by the Apache Camel component, and let's see what happens with this once it got picked up. Though we have seen in the previous slide, we will again see. So once a file got picked up as per the Camel routes from the source location, the Camel picks up the file and send it over to the ActiveMQ Bonita queue. And once a message has been received, another route will get activated which will read the document and it will be sent over to a document extractor. What it does is it extracts using regular expressions claim request details and then it sends over to the logger component which logs the document details or the request details, and the final destination would be a Bonita endpoint will be invoked with the claim request details with this API. Now see, as per the routing, a Bonita case should have been kicked off in the Bonita engine. So we have this is the Bonita portal where all workflow users will log in to take their actions, and we have a Walter Bates user which is configured as a customer service representative. When representative logs in, there will be a compliance task available for the representative. So assuming he wanted to take the action on this, it will get assigned to the representative, and then the representative will have a look at claim details. So we have only extracted only customer reference number from the document. So as per the needs, we can extract whatever the details that are needed. So representative will have a look at the claim request, what is being sent over as part of the request, and then either he can accept or reject the claim. So for now we will accept the claim. And as per the workflow, a processing task will be created for the representative, assuming I wanted to continue with the processing of this request. Now once the processing is completed offline, whatever the documentation and paperwork, the representative is going to upload that return letter. I have a predefined return letter here for the demo purpose, and continue with the processing of the claim. Once the claim request has been submitted from the representative, it will be sent over to the manager of the Walter Bates. So here we have Helen Kelly as a manager for the Walter Bates. So when Helen Kelly logs into the portal, you will see the final review task for the claim request. So Helen Kelly can have a look at what is the claim request details and what is the return letter that is being processed by the representative and take the appropriate action. So for now, we'll accept the approval. So once an approval has been done by the manager, there will be an outbound queue that gets kicked off, where a message will be published with the claim approval details, and this is the Camel route that gets activated whenever there is a message into the folder queue. So once message has been received, so this approval details will be sent over to printer queue folder, which is again a file system, which would be basically listened by any printer or the scanner for the physical printing purpose. And another data transformation that happens on this approval is a Word file upload endpoint, which we have developed, which internally loads this approval letter onto a content management system. In this demo, we have used Alfresco as a content management system. So in the real-time use case, there could be many more such systems would be listening to this message for the approvals, so that it can be further processed or any notifications will be sent. So let's see if content management system got any approval document. So here is the document that got uploaded into content management system for audit and history purpose of this claim request. And there will be a printer queue which should have received a return letter at 8:30. This is the return letter where the printer queue would be listening to. So with that, it's a simple use case and made it simplified for the understanding purpose. As I said, the real time could be much more complex, which can be achieved with depending on choosing the right tool with the help of ESB and BPM hand in hand. And with that, I will ask Jason to take the control and continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so Vara, I believe you're going to wrap up with some highlights of the solution, and we'll go ahead and move into some questions and answers. Hopefully everybody's seeing the advantages of leveraging ESB and BPM into that architecture. So Vara, if you want to highlight some of the solutions, we can go ahead and go through this and move into Q&A.
Sure, Jason. Thank you. Thank you, Hari, for that live presentation and the demo. So I hope you're able to appreciate how the decoupling is happening and how you can take up each of those components and could scale them independently, right, as your volumes increase. And also, you've seen that there was a Word document that came into the route and that got processed. So you could actually configure multiple routes in the same way to process different kinds of inputs. Probably, some departments might use a spreadsheet, some departments might use an existing Word document form, etc. So it's basically a completely decoupled architecture with multiple parts that can be scaled independently. So that is the summary that you are actually seeing there on the screen as well. So BPM parts focus on the workflow elements only. Now the core process is separated out and you can enhance it as you want, and the other system components are separated out into the ESB. Now it's a very highly scalable solution because you can add additional resources whenever you need and scale down if you don't need. And ESB and BPM work hand in hand to run in this kind of effective manner. And also you could come up with any other similar scenario in your ecosystem, not just one straightforward process like that, but you could actually intertwine into multiple things that happen in the ecosystem, and you can orchestrate using BPM for the human-based tasks and transactions, and ESB for various automated voluminous tasks that are system tasks that get done. At Evoke, we have been doing a lot of work on similar applications. So we just put up a couple of examples there that we worked in the past. We integrated BPM with Talent, which is a data integration tool in the market for master data management. So that's again a similar managed between a ESB and BPM, which effectively works for that particular solution. And in the past, we've also done some Spring integration framework integrations with Bonita BPM. And as Jason mentioned initially, Bonita BPM is an open source platform. Now you saw the process design in this particular use case that Hari presented, and you also saw that it's almost very flexible, and there was no specific code done directly for any of those components to work. And on top of that, it's an open source tool, so you could enhance any of those parts and you could add any additional code that you want to each of those steps based on your requirements from the business. So with that, I would like to wrap up this particular use case demo, and how a simple use case of claims management can be used to understand how to build a very highly scalable solution using a ESB plus BPM architecture. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will take any questions. So please raise your hand using the toolbar on the right side of your webinar panel. You can also enter any questions into the chat box. And as I mentioned earlier, don't forget that there are 2 handouts available for download in the handout section of your webinar. So once we go through the questions, if we have any, I'll keep the line open for a few more minutes for you to access any of those downloads. As of right now, I see no questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. I'll give it a few more minutes, and then we will go ahead and put the presentation on silence mode as you continue to download the presentations. So at this time, Vara and Hariala, I don't see any questions coming through. Looks like you've done a good job explaining the process of ESB and BPM. I'll give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar. In the meantime, if there are any follow-up questions, you can contact Evoke Technologies. Also, please feel free to join us on any of our social channels, LinkedIn, Twitter, that we're all subscribed to. So again, I'll leave the room open for a few more minutes, and I want to thank you all for attending. All right, thank you all for attending. We appreciate your time this morning. Vara, Hariala, great job. Thank you for your time this morning as well.